Hey guys, welcome to Let's Talk, the show where we talk music and we talk sports. Today, again, it's just going to be the two-man show. JG9 and I are here. And before I bring him on, I want to remind everyone, check out the QR code on the screen for Circle. It is a great hydration system that I believe in and has over 100 great flavors. And if you don't want to take my word for it, just know that Mr. Beast is actually using this product now and working with Circle to create new flavors for everybody. So without further ado, let's bring on the man, the myth, the legend. It's JaguarGator9. Hey Colin, what's going on?
How's it going, Scorpion? It is going. It's going well. It's going well. A lot to talk about. Exciting times just in the sports world. Exciting times just in general. So, should be fun
Yeah.
show. Should be fun. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, let's start off with some stuff that in the sports world. I got to mention that background behind you. Those don't look like normal NFL helmets. What's going on?
Nope, it's UFL helmets. It's United Football League just started up, so I'm live streaming all the games on my channel, or just about every single one of them. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go all out this year. I live streamed the games last year on my couch, on my living room couch.
I remember that.
Setup. It's a lot different this year. A lot more professional, a lot nicer background. So I was like, you know, let's get all these helmets of all the teams that have played in spring football before, and we've got the 8 teams that played in this league right over there. So exciting times. Football is back. It's not the NFL, but it is back.
Speaking, let's compare it to the NFL real quick. What kind of grade would you give week 1 compared to maybe week 1 of the 23 season in the NFL?
Yeah, it's tough to say in terms of that. I would say in terms of the quality's there. The quality's there. I think the one thing that's lacking in the UFL compared to the NFL is the running game. The running game is definitely not there. And we saw that last year in the XFL. There was only one really good running back last year in the XFL, and that was Abram Smith, and he got hurt. He tore his ACL, so he's not playing this year. So you see these USFL teams doing a lot better than the XFL teams who are running the ball. But I would say the quality offensively, obviously there was some stuff, there was some sloppiness, but there were some really, really fun moments that happened in this week. You had the Papali catch for a touchdown. You had the Brad Wing punter throwing a touchdown to the center,
right?
And then obviously Jake Bates with the 64-yard field goal to win the game. So this was a fun week to start off. Fun week, low scoring week, but fun week to start off. And you figure you're going to get a lot more games that are really, really good and down to the wire as we go on.
Yeah, you said on your live stream, Ford Field has now hosted the longest field goal in NFL history and Spring League history. Do you see maybe that record creeping up for Spring League, creeping up towards that NFL record?
I mean, I could see it. Look, Jake Bates, when he hit that 64-yard field goal, he drilled it with ease. It
wasn't bouncing off the goalpost.
Yep. And on top of that, like, he made it twice. I think that's the thing that people are going to forget when they think about this is that, he made a 64-yard field goal. But for those who saw the highlights but didn't watch the game, he made it twice. He made it the first time. Then he got iced, so it didn't count. And he made it again, and both times it was perfect and right down the middle. So I can see a scenario where it's the end of the half, and they're at like the 50-yard line. You know, why not try it?
You said during that game, he was going to have a low trajectory. Anything over 60, usually you run that risk of it being blocked because you do have to kick that low trajectory.
Right. It has to be like the end of the half. It has to be a situation like that where you don't really have anything to lose.
Right.
You can reach. And what's crazy is that, so it turns out that the report afterwards was that he had never kicked a field goal since high school. That was the report afterwards.
Right.
From all these media outlets. And turns out they did some more digging afterwards. And turns out that wasn't even true. He didn't kick a field goal in high school. That was really his first field goal ever.
Could you imagine? I mean, I can understand with the way pro football is, and you can, I'm going to classify UFL as pro football, even though some would say semi-pro. Would you say that most kickers on run their like a lot of kickers in college don't do both duties just because you have so many guys that are capable of doing one or the other.
In terms of like kicking and punting,
Yeah,
or in terms of or
field,
kicking and kickoffs, or
yeah, field goals and kickoffs. Yeah,
field goals and kickoffs. Yeah, I would say in college it's a bit of both. It's the sense that you have guys that can do both, and your legs could get tired. Like I know for the Jaguars, Logan Cook was our punter, and he tried doing kickoffs because Riley Patterson couldn't reach the end zone, and his punting suffered as a result. His leg got tired. So I think with how big the rosters are in college, you can carry 100 guys on a team essentially.
right.
You can have a guy that just their sole focus is kickoffs. Their sole focus is field goals, so they don't have to waste time doing multiple drills. They can just focus on one thing and one thing only. Because at that level,
Yeah,
like most people can kick off a tee. At that level, everyone can kick off a tee.
yeah. So week one, would you say success, mediocre, bust?
Ooh, I would say I don't know if I'd say success just yet. I don't know if I'd say success just yet. Attendance wise, it was a mixed bag. Now they did start on Easter weekend. Arlington, I was really impressed by them. Really impressed by Arlington. That was the highest attendance they've had since they came back in 2023. Michigan did a very good job attendance wise, considering the fact that they didn't
They're
have a
in
good
an
season last
NFL
year.
stadium.
Yeah, they didn't have a good season last year. I think this week they're going to get a lot of fans. I think we're going to get a big, big crowd.
You're gonna start seeing the bandwagon fans.
Yeah. The big one I'm interested in, obviously, I can't say attendance wise anything until we see what happens with St. Louis, because St. Louis is the big kahuna in all this. St. Louis,
Right.
you're looking at 35,000, 40,000 a game. It's going to be off the charts. The one thing I am worried about is Houston. Granted, it was Easter weekend, but that was the lowest attendance they've had. Now, there were reasons for that, obviously. Easter weekend, the confusion regarding the name and everything, a new stadium. You don't get the college crowd because people are away for Easter weekend, but and how's it going, AKC? Long time fan of the channel. Thank you so much. I see him in the comments on every single video. It's awesome that you're here. Yeah, this is a way different stream than we usually do. But thank you for tuning in, AKC. But yeah, this is a I'd say it was a solid week. I'd say it was a pretty solid week for the UFL. I give it a B minus. I give it a B minus. The
B
game
minus.
quality wasn't the best at times, but there were some great moments. The fans showed up. The TV ratings seemed pretty good. I think the average it just came in was like 1 million people for each of the 4 games, which you're going up against the final or the Elite Eight. I think that's pretty good. We'll see what happens as it goes on, but I think there's an audience for this.
Yeah. Now you did make mention of the difference between ESPN and Fox regarding the broadcast. ESPN more Vegas focus, you said?
More Vegas folks. Yeah, they have the over-under on the spread on the scoreboard at all times. The bug was exactly the same as it was last year, which was a terrible gray bug that just looks very boxy. The announcers, though, were better overall on ESPN than Fox. Kurt Menefee had a stinker. He called quarterback Luis Perez, but Luis Perez has been in spring football for a while now. He's like the best spring football quarterback of the 2020s. He was great with New York in 2020. He was great with Arlington last year. Won the title. Like I don't know how you forget the name. And then obviously there was the whole couldn't do math about the 1 possession versus 2 possession game.
Yeah.
Well, he's not the best at play-by-play.
Yeah, that's kind of way 2 months ago we were talking 8 points is 1 possession. Now we're talking 9 points is 1 possession. So yeah. Speaking of the Elite Eight, any surprises men's or women's side in the Elite Eight?
I mean, in terms of surprises, we got to talk NC State. This was a team that was tied with 5 minutes to go against Louisville in the first round of the ACC tournament. People thought they were getting knocked out. The coach was going to get fired. Heads were going to roll. And now they're 2 games away from winning the Natty. And then you also have to remember the following round against Virginia, they were down by 3 with 4 seconds left. Virginia, 87% free throw shooter at the line. He makes the shot. It's over. Misses the shot. They go down the length of the court, score with no time left, force overtime, win the game. Like the domino chain of events that had to happen for NC State to go on this miracle run of theirs is insane. And it feels so weird because I went to college in North Carolina. And
Right.
there you were you were a UNC fan or you were a Duke fan. NC State was just there. They were like the middle child that no one cared about. It's almost like it's not like the best
They
comparison,
weren't.
but
Is that's the stadium? That's the arena that's not selling out unless they're playing Duke or North Carolina,
yeah,
right?
pretty much. I mean, they get like good crowds, like they're playing where the Hurricanes play. They play a giant arena. They play at PNC, and UNC is like a reasonable size for college. Duke's a reasonable size for college. PNC is like a 18,000 seat arena. They're not
Right.
selling that out every week. So it just feels so weird to see NC State. It's not like the best comparison, but it's almost like growing up in New York. You were either a Rangers fan or an Islanders fan, and then the Devils make it. It's like wait, what?
Right.
But that's not even like the best comparison because it's like obviously Devils have a huge fan base. But
Right.
it's a weird situation. I don't really know how to describe it. I would almost yeah. Like I'm trying to think of a good. I would like I honestly I don't know how to describe it. It's like the middle child. It's the middle child that is like there. It's like wait, they made the Final Four. Like how?
Growing up in Texas, it was always there. There's 5 major teams, 5, 6 major teams that everyone follows in Texas. You got UT, you've got A&M, you've got TCU, Baylor, Tech. Some of the states like North Carolina where you only have 3, where you have that 3-team dynamic, or maybe some other,
you got Wake Forest there too, but
where you have these a bunch of small schools and it's like huge fan base for 1 or 2, and then no one cares about the other 2 when it comes to the populace. Obviously the alumni care about it, but is it any different from you growing up in New York, with trying to watch college games in New York for New York based schools?
Yeah, well, New York was different because the Northeast, for the most part, doesn't really care about college football. Like, I like college football, but I didn't really get into it until I went to college. New York, like, the closest team to me that was FBS was either UConn in a completely different state,
right,
or Rutgers in a completely different state. If you're talking like Syracuse, like Army, obviously, like that was probably the closest team. But you're talking like completely, if you're talking the same state of like a major conference, Syracuse is 5 hours away. So there wasn't really a huge, huge college football fan base in New York, and that's why I was confused when they expanded the Big Ten expanded to Rutgers to get the New York footprint. Like, we don't really care about college football here. Like, we not really.
Yeah, there's certain schools. It's like, wait, why are you in this conference? Speaking of conferences, we're going to be in the same conference pretty soon with my favorite team, and then where you graduated from your law degree, ASU and Baylor. ASU joining the Big 12, along with a bunch of other Pac teams. What are your thoughts going into that? Do you feel that there's some, obviously your Arizona State rivalry is going to still be there. Who do you see as possibly another kind of natural rival for ASU that's already in the Big 12?
Yeah, so not kind of like the Pac-12 teams. That's tough. I would probably say, I mean, the big one, I don't know for ASU just yet. For Arizona, I can tell you, Arizona-Kansas games are going to be fun.
Oh, those are going to be huge.
Arizona-Kansas is going to be a bloodbath, and I cannot wait for that. You got
both on the field and the court.
Yeah, mainly for college basketball. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
For ASU, I would probably say, from a football standpoint, we played Oklahoma State a few times as of late, and those games get intense. So I'd probably say Oklahoma State would probably be the most natural. I like the move, though. I like the move. Obviously, we had to get out of the Pac-12. We had to.
Right.
It was a dying conference.
The Pac was just drowning in the fact that it was not getting the TV deals that the others were getting.
Yeah.
It felt, like you said, the stepchild of the Big Five.
Yeah. And they had opportunities. They got greedy. They got greedy.
Yeah.
With the sun, and then it all just fell apart. I'm excited about ASU going to the Big 12. I've wanted them to join it for years if we were going to abandon the Pac-12 because it was a dying conference. Geographically, it makes sense. Like, it's a perfect geographic fit. Really, outside of UCF, I think they did the math. And the average distance, if you take out UCF, between all the schools for Arizona flight-wise is about the same as the distance. I think it's like 20 minutes more versus the Pac-12 because you had all those northern schools like Oregon State and Oregon and
Right.
Wazoo and Washington. So it's geographically, it's not anything outrageous. Like Arizona teams being in the same conference as Texas teams, like that's not anything crazy.
That was all that was the big complaint when the Big 12 added West Virginia was for like Texas, it was going to be this big long flight to get up there. And it's like, well, one, you're only running them once a year or once every 2 years, having to make that flight for each school, basically.
Right. I mean, I get for like the smaller sports,
but the basketball, you were running basically four. You're sending your team, two teams up there twice or once each. So there's 2 trips, and then you have them making the return trip. Each school was out that travel. So I can get why the whole keep it regional thing was big until here recently. And I think the SEC kind of started this mega conference, got to have 16 teams idea. And overall, I think that we're getting close to seeing possibly 2 mega conferences in NCAA football, and the conference is really not meaning anything for football other than that's who all your other sports are playing with.
Right. Yeah, I could see the next 25 years. I think we might be at a situation where it's like, this is not sustainable. Not for football. For football, it's sustainable. For football, you're traveling once a week. You have the budget. You have the money. You're bringing the revenue. But I just don't see – now it doesn't matter for like ASU because
right,
like Texas, it's fine. Oklahoma's fine. Like it's reasonable travel. Kansas is fine. But for a lot of these things like Cal going to the ACC, like I don't see how these smaller sports are surviving.
right.
The revenue is like you're already losing money on every sport that's not football and basketball. Some schools make some on baseball, but not a lot. So I don't see how these other sports like women's volleyball and soccer and everything like that, I don't know how they're surviving.
You've called volleyball games. What would you say average attendance for volleyball games was back when you were calling them?
Yeah, I would say the arena held about 1,800. So I would say 500. I'll say 500.
And if it was televised, everyone was on one side, right? So the hard camera had a good shot.
We did not get any of those. We got the best we did was the ones I called on ESPN Plus. That was the best we did. We got lucky. We got an ESPN3 game.
Well, let's go to the NFL. There's some news. There's a bunch of news that's come out since we last talked. Of course, the owners had their meetings. We got some big rule changes that come out of that, and some minor stuff as well. But I want to talk about 2 ownership things real quick. Tom Brady is trying to buy some interest in the Raiders. Why the Raiders?
I mean, I'm not sure exactly why the Raiders of all teams. I mean, I get like the Vegas market and everything. Obviously, Mark Davis is like one of the least cash like flow owners in the NFL. It's more. I don't think it's going to go through. I don't think it's going to go through because Brady's
going to get blocked.
Yeah, it's just a massive conflict of interest. It's not the fact that he was a former player or anything like that. It's the fact that he is calling games, so he gets inside information on all the players and all the teams from meeting with coaches, meeting with players and whatnot. You could potentially tamper with players. You could potentially tamper with players in those meetings.
Right.
Like obviously like if Greg Olsen, announcer for Fox, if he talks to a player and says like I would love to be playing for you, like as a coach, like, or
Yeah.
no, I'm trying to think of a good way to say, but like if Greg Olson said to a player like in a meeting beforehand, like I would love for you to be a part of like this organization and whatnot. Like if I was running this organization, I'd love for you to be a part of it. Well, for Tom Brady, it's a bit different because he's actually a part of the organization. I just
Right.
think it'd be a massive conflict of interest, and I think Brady would have to give up his Fox deal to do it. And I don't think he's going to do it because it's $375 million, and he clearly wants to do it. So
Right.
I don't see it going through.
Yeah. He would have to, it would be a one or the other thing, right?
Yeah, because I just don't see how he can be an announcer and an owner of the same league at the same time.
And then the other big news coming out of that this kind of past couple of weeks, Cal McNair has officially been placed as principal owner of the Texans instead of his mother. What do you expect? What do you expect from Cal, and what were you surprised by that news?
Wasn't really too surprised. I had a feeling it was coming. Just what a turnaround Cal's done. Because like 5 years ago, he was hated in Houston. He was
he was hated.
He was hated. Like the turnaround he's done a complete 180. So this move has been a long time coming. It's good for him. It's good for the organization. Obviously, the trajectory is going way up for the Texans.
Yeah. Do you see players being more comfortable now that ownership squabble has been resolved, knowing that Cal's in charge instead of his mom?
Yeah, I think it's definitely more comfortable now than any other time in Texans history because you have the quarterback, you have the coach, you have the owner. Like just that cloud of uncertainty, we saw it with the Broncos. It was tough for Denver for a while because we didn't know who the owner was. Saints,
Right.
They had that whole situation. Like we didn't know who the owner was. There was a lot of uncertainty there. And that dragged out for a while. So the fact that this is just clear cut and dry, like we're keeping it in house. It's Cal who's been in the organization for a while. There's no uncertainty. It's good for the Texans. It's good.
He was the GM when his father died, right?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of, obviously I see Texan stuff before I pretty much see any other NFL stuff. This came across and I was like, okay, at least we know what we're dealing with going into free agency and going into the season. So that's good.
Yeah.
Recap free agency so far. There's a lot out there with free agency.
Oh man, it's a lot.
I mean, there's alleged tampering before the fact that they were allowed to tamper.
Yeah. I mean, there's always tampering. That's what I don't get. Like we need like concrete data because it seems like a lot of these free agents, it happens at like the league year, like legal tampering, which is the biggest oxymoron of all time. It's either tampering or it's not. It's not legal. Tampering by definition is illegal. But you see like the league tampering, the official tampering period open up at 12 o'clock. And by 1 o'clock, you've got deals in place. And you're like, okay, wait, they tampered, but they didn't. How does that make any sense? Like, there's no way you're making these $100 million deals in 2 minutes. There's no way.
These free agents, these guys that are going into free agency know they're going, pretty sure they're not going to get franchise tagged or whatever. Those guys are, their agents are working from the moment they are out of the playoffs, right?
Yeah, their deals that are done at the combine. Their deal, it's the worst kept secret. There are deals that are done at the combine.
Yeah.
That's why I never get my coaches and like some GMs don't go to the combine because it's like that is where stuff happens. Even if you don't down at the combine to like view players, like so much happens at the combine from a networking and negotiating standpoint. It's really just a giant networking event that just happens to have workouts take place.
That happens to be a job interview, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, I guess like the biggest story for me with free agency, besides whatever the heck the Vikings did getting Sam Darnold, is the Calvin Ridley situation. I have no clue what happened. That was one of the most bizarre things.
All right, let's talk about the team we both hate. We know that they've overpaid for Calvin Wrigley. They've overpaid for several people, though, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. It's really like this is a team that is built to win now. but at the same time, they have a quarterback that is not built to win now. So I'm not really sure what I mean, they have money to burn, so it's not like a huge deal.
I was gonna say they had one of the highest amounts to spend, right?
Yeah, I think they were like, even after Ridley, I think they still like the third highest cap space.
Yeah.
Like you look at that roster, it's like, okay, let's sign a veteran running back in Tony Pollard. So you're not getting like fresh legs. You're getting a guy in Tony Pollard like that. Let's have our top two receivers be guys on the wrong side of 30 past their prime, and Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. Let's do that, and then let's surround him with a second-year quarterback.
Yeah. And the bad thing is we both have guys that we loved in our respected teams now on that team.
Yes.
Hopkins was has been phenomenal wherever he's gone. I see him regressing quite a bit. Calvin, the same thing. He was phenomenal for Jacksonville, but I don't see him staying at that level, especially for that much money.
Yeah, because he did have some issues in Jacksonville, like with drops and everything, and you never know.
Yeah, last season he did have quite a few drops.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how you kind of love guys until they go to the enemy.
Yep.
It's
I don't blame Ridley. Yeah, I don't blame Ridley for going to Tennessee. I mean, he got a crap ton of money. We were offering him like 3 years, $18 million a year. We're giving $54 million. And
why Tennessee?
Yeah, that was like a good price. Like he was going to take the deal, and then the Titans came at the last second, and we're like, "Hey, this $54 million contract, yeah, we'll give it to you guaranteed. Here's another $36 million on top of that too."
Yeah,
so I get why he did it, but it was funny in the press conference. I don't know if you saw the press conference, but he was talking about like how I wish I stayed in Jacksonville, how I really wanted to be a Jaguar. Like that's a great way to start off a press conference when you start with a rival team.
Kind of reminds me of the two Belichick press conferences back to back, where it's like, yeah, I accept this. Now I'm resigning, and let's hope this one goes a little better than the last one. It's like, yeah, way to throw him under the bus. Let's kind of break down some of these rules. Yahoo did a wonderful spread or layout of these new rules, and we'll go through them real quick. Let's start with kickoffs are radically changing. Now, we saw this last year in the XFL, which you broadcast some great streams there. Mm-hmm. This is 100% to reduce injury, correct?
Well, it's not necessarily to reduce injury because they were reducing injury last year. It's to reduce injury and get the kickoff to mean something again, to not have it just go out the back of the end zone. Because they reduced injury last year, but the problem is that the kickoff sucked. You had 13 kicks in the Super Bowl. None of them got returned. I think 78% of kicks got taken for a touchback. It was boring. The kickoff was basically just this not fluke play, but like this play where if you got returned, it was crazy. And it went out to the 25. Now at least we're seeing an actual kickoff with return and with stakes and everything.
Now, someone posted that this kickoff scheme is ripe for misuse by the kicking team. The rules kind of prevent that, correct? And that it has to go into that landing zone.
It has to go into the 20-yard line. So I'm not sure how you could misuse that.
Right. Because you're kicking it.
I don't know. Like, I think it has to. If it bounces short, I know in the XFL, if it bounced short, it didn't count.
Yeah.
It was a penalty. So I don't know if this means the squib kick is gone. I'm assuming the squib kick is gone. But surprise onside kick's definitely gone. The squib kick, I don't know if anything changes with the squib kick. That's a viable strategy. I have no problem with teams using. But it's going to look radically different. But I have no problem with this rule. I think the only confusion I have is why did the UFL change the rule to make it NFL style?
Yeah. Now the UFL is doing more of what the USFL did last season, right?
Okay. Yeah, kickoffs at the 20-yard line, so they all get returned. But I get why they had to get rid of the kickoff in the way that it was because it was there was concussion that happened on 6% of plays last, or like the data showed, I forget what season it was, but 6% of concussions came on plays, like just a general play, but 13% came on kickoffs.
Yeah.
So it was an unsafe
And
play.
of course, Yahoo using your favorite analyst to bash on
It's
here.
funny with Schefter. It's funny too because it's like I've never criticized him reporting stuff. It's fun. Like I've
It's
always given
stuff
him a
he
lot of
just
credit,
gets
like
wrong.
yeah, when he reports something, it's on the money. Like if he says this is happening, I'm
Yeah.
putting money on it that it's happening. It's
Right.
more of just when he talks about non-news and non-reports.
It's
That's like
it's
putting
his
history stuff where it's
it's
like,
those
ooh,
opinion pieces.
yeah. It's more of when he has to like add additional context where it's like, ooh,
Right.
this is not right.
So the kickoffs they're further back, and they have to go, and there's a landing zone, that a preferred spot where the NFL would like those balls to land.
Yeah.
How long before you see them pushing this back
Well,
to maybe kicking from the goal line because these kickers are getting so good?
yeah, I mean, we've reached the limit in terms of how far these kickers can kick off a tee. I feel like we've reached that limit. There's less incentive to kick out of the back of the end zone. But you saw like these kickers when they're kicking out of the back of the end zone, they were kicking into the stands. So I
Right.
feel like we've reached the point. I don't think it's going to get moved any further back.
Yeah.
My only thing is that I'm not sure how much of a difference this might make because touchbacks are at the 30-yard line instead of the 25. I'm not sure if that 5-yard difference is worth the giant return because we saw in the USFL with all these kickoff returns, or UFL I should say, with all these kick returns, that, and granted they were kicking from the 20, different rules, but these teams are starting these drives at the 40-yard line. It might be worth it for these teams to just still boot it out of the back of the end zone. Now, if it was at the 35-yard line, like they were talking about, but they got rid of that. It was supposed to be 35, and then
They
Goodell,
compromised.
to get more people to vote on it. So that's not as punitive if you go out of the back of the end zone.
Because the 35, you might as well just kick it out of bounds and give it to them
Yeah.
at the 40, right?
Yeah. I think what we could see eventually, we could see a scenario where if this doesn't work out, we go 35-yard line on touchbacks, but 50-yard line if it goes out of bounds.
Yeah.
I could see that as a scenario at some point in the future. But when people say the NFL wants to increase scoring, I think this is definitely a way to do it. Your average field position is going to go up just by default.
Yeah. And you're going to reduce the safety, the safeties and other things like that when it comes to the defense or a kickoff getting pinned deep, and then the defense capitalizing with a safety. You're going to see more of that with punts, which we already see. Punts are usually the leading cause of safeties on the ensuing drive. But I like the idea that the kickoffs are going to actually be a legitimate play instead of, like you've said, a glorified ceremonial switch who has the ball.
Yeah. I think just the concern I have is that I'm not sure this is necessarily enough. Like I like this rule change. I like that they're trying to do something. But you think of the average drive, probably about 20 yards, I'd say. Probably the average drive is 20 yards, give or take. So kick it out of the end zone for a touchback. All right, 30-yard line. You got 20 yards. They're at midfield.
You're at 50.
They're still not kicking a field goal. They're still not punting. They're still not kicking a field goal. They're still not going for it. They're going to punt the ball.
Unless you've got a Tucker or a Bates.
Right. But even that, you're not trying to 68-yard unless it's like the end of the game.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I'm not sure. I think there's going to be some tweaks to this. Basically, this is here to stay. I just don't think this will be the final form. I think this rule's going to look different next year.
They're going to tweak this over the next couple of years to get exactly what they want.
Yeah, they'll do trial and error. Which is why I'm a bit surprised they didn't do it where they implemented this for the preseason, and then for the regular season, they went back to the old rules, and then they would submit like a final proposal for 2025.
Or do it for the preseason, then make a final decision on that week before regular season starts.
Yeah. because I still think you're going to get teams booing out of the end zone. But at the very least, we're not going to get 78% of kickoffs being touchbacks.
If we're seeing it now, if we go into preseason and everyone's just kicking it right out of the end zone, could the NFL tweak it to push the kickoff back 5 yards?
They could. I mean, the problem is that we won't know with preseason. That's the real issue, because kickers are not going to boot out of the back of the end zone in preseason. Because one of the things you want to look at in camp and in preseason is special teams, because that's how a lot of these guys make the roster. 53-man roster, you figure about 45 of those spots are locked up, guaranteed.
That kicker position is not always locked up.
Right. Kicking's not locked up, and special teams is where a lot of these guys, like the undrafted free agents, the lower round rookies, they make the roster that way. They make it.
And is there kind of a gentleman's agreement that preseason you're actually wanting those special teams plays so a kicker won't just boot it out of the end zone?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's gentleman's agreement so much as it is the coaches wanting film on the players. Like there's nothing to evaluate. Like you want to see how a guy takes a good angle. You want to see how a guy gets up a block. You want to see how a guy makes a tackle on special teams. There's nothing really to evaluate. Like if the guy's just kicking out of the back of the end zone, like I look exactly. If you're just kicking out of the back of the end zone, I look exactly the same as everybody. I do exactly as much as those guys. You're just kicking out of the back of the end zone
because you're just jogging down the field.
just run down the field and you just don't do anything, and like you don't touch anyone, you don't tackle anyone, you don't get off any blocks because you're just out of the back of the end zone. Play means nothing. So I think it's more of just you want things on film. It's almost like why teams will not go for it on fourth down in preseason a lot of the times. They'll kick the field goal because you go for on fourth down, what are you going to learn? Like the third string quarterback, what are you going to learn? Like because these guys are making it based on their play on offense, making it based on play on special teams. The more special teams reps you get, the better.
Yeah. This one has been kind of the hot topic of what came out of competition committee. We're going to kind of gloss over it real quick, but hip drop tackles now 100% in the referee's hands. Not something we really needed them to be worried about, right?
No. I mean, here's the thing. If it was robot officials, I'd be like, okay, like I get it. They're higher risk of injury. Like, I get it. Want to get rid of it, want to coach you out of a game. How are these refs going to officiate this? They can't officiate as it is.
Right.
Like we don't know what intentional grounding is. We don't know what a catch is. We don't know
what a sack is.
Yeah, we don't
versus roughing the passer.
Yeah, so like how are we going to officiate what looks like a regular tackle? They showed the film. I have no clue what a hip drop tackle is. Some of those look totally fine. I know there's like a textbook definition, but I think the way to get this out of the game, you can't expect the refs to call this in real time. They have enough on their plate as it is. You want them to figure out, okay, what happens on a hip drop tackle. Like you want them.
This was a rule that was put into place to protect receivers, correct?
Just receivers, running backs, really anyone. But it's just gonna be tough to officiate. That's really what it comes down to. I don't have a problem getting rid of the hip drop tackle if it reduces injuries. It's more of these officials will not be able to officiate it. I think the way to do this is you almost like how they enforce guys throwing the ball into the stands, where you have the play, it doesn't get flagged, but you get fined after the fact.
Right. Kind of like a uniform policy, kind of like the NFL does with uniform policies of they'll photograph a uniform violation and then you get a letter in the mail saying, hey, you owe us money.
Yeah. Because like everything's now we have to figure out if a tackle is legal or not. Like it just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And especially because I could see guys, you know how like in the NBA, when guys think they're going to get fouled, they contort their body in a way to make it look like they got fouled even though they didn't get fouled.
Yeah.
I could see some savvy NFL players doing that, where they contort their body in a way to make it look like a hip drop tackle when it's not. And the ref will fall in real time.
But I could be wrong. Did the league put in some safeguards to the so-called flopping problem that could create?
It'd be more of just how they land. Like I could just because obviously like you want to stay upright at all times. Obviously, like the goal is Like
Right.
NBA, you want to go down. So
Yeah.
there's no real flopping in that regard in the NFL because obviously if you can stay on your feet, the better it is. But it's more of if I know I'm going to get tackled from behind, I'm going to prepare for it. I'm going to contort my body in a way where I can safeguard myself, I can protect myself, but it looks worse than it actually is.
Right. So NFL decides the trade deadline needs to be week 9, not week 8.
Yep, fine with me.
Obviously, this is in preparation to going to an 18-week or a 18 game season.
Yep. And it's also because by week 9, you have a better idea of where you stand. Like back in the day, the trade deadline was week 6. You didn't know if you were contending or pretending at that point. By week 9, you know whether
Yeah.
you should buy or sell. So means a more active trade deadline. We've seen more active trade deadlines in the past. I think we'll get even more active this year.
Yeah. Coaches are going to get a third challenge as long as one of the first 2 was successful.
Love it. Love it.
Do you think the NFL will ever go to the super challenge that the UFL has?
I don't think the Referees Association would allow for it to happen. I
Okay.
don't think they would allow for it to happen. I think it's a great rule. I like the super challenge, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I do like this rule. I know some people are thinking, okay, what about just you get 2 unsuccessful challenges? Why bring the third challenge? A lot of the rules are brought in because of circumstance, and we've never had a situation in the challenge rule came in place in 1998. We've never had a situation where a team won all 3 challenges and then needed to challenge something the 4th time. No team's ever won 3 challenges. So this makes sense. I think the impetus for this was the Bills-Steelers playoff game where the Bills lost both their challenges in the first quarter. So I like this change a lot.
Now you're gonna have to explain this next one. Enforcement of fouls on change of possession plays. This one, I've read through what NFL has published on this. I've read through the synopsis of it. I'm still kind of like, okay, so both teams commit a foul and it's 4th down, then what really happens?
Yeah. Basically, if there's a penalty, like let's say there's a offside penalty and there's an offensive roughing penalty. Let's say there's a late hit by the offensive player, something like that.
Right.
Now let's say the offensive team throws an interception or something. The defensive team recovers, they have the ball. If they accept the penalty beforehand, you wouldn't accept the penalty, you just decline the penalty because it would be it would still be the other team's ball.
It would be an offsetting penalty.
Yeah, but now you can accept because offsetting penalties, the thing is that they offset, but there's some things that are weighted more than others. There's some things that don't offset with each other. I don't think this is ever going to come into play. This might come into play once a season, but it makes sense. It's basically you can't if you commit a roughness penalty and you and you turn the ball over, that will be added on to the yard line.
The end of the play.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's confusing wording. It's not going to come up. I'd be very surprised if it comes up.
It's going to come up once a year, and everyone's going to be scratching their heads when it happens.
It'll come in a Lions primetime game, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, just another way for the refs to screw the Lions.
Yeah.
As Grossi likes to say. Replay changes coming. Now, I'm surprised that this one actually got past the refs, because this throws a big monkey wrench in their whole "our word is final" thing. Now you got a replay assistant that actually can call down and say, wait, we're reversing your call.
Yeah. I mean, we had some of that last year with expedited review. I guess it's just we're expanding what expedited review is. Okay. I'm just skeptical that it's going to look as good as it is, because referees don't like being corrected. They don't like being corrected at all. Remember when they had the challenges for pass interference? And even if it was blatantly obvious, very rarely did pass interference get overturned. Very rarely did a team win their challenge for pass interference.
Right. I mean, it would have had to be they said that that experiment was, they weren't going to overturn anything unless it was as blatant as that playoff game.
Yeah, there was and there were some things that were, but they never did it.
Right.
I guess this is really just expanding what expedited review could do for objective things. So
The
clear
intentional,
black and white.
yeah, the intentional grounding and roughing the passer. Obviously, roughing the passer is the big one. We've seen some very loose terms, if that's used for that. I mean, Brady gets slapped on the chest and it's a roughing the passer call. And then Stroud took a hit this last year that got put full body weight on him and didn't get called. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the refs seem to have their own definition of this.
Yeah.
If they've got 16 guys that's their whole job of looking for this scenario, maybe they can start getting it right.
Maybe. I have a feeling based on clear and obvious, objectively incorrect stuff, I have a feeling it's going to lean more toward the offense than the defense. I have a feeling we're not going to see too many overturns for driving in the body or anything like that. But I have a feeling we might be seeing some stuff where the referee might have missed a late hit and they call it afterwards.
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to see more automatic first downs than you will see reversals.
Right. The next one, this is just pulling guys off of IR in the playoffs.
Yeah, nothing really too crazy there. Just you have more roster flexibility in the playoffs.
Ironic of who proposed that one. And emergency quarterbacks. This one we kind of knew was coming. A third quarterback to be classified as an emergency quarterback. No big surprise with that one, right?
No, because a lot of teams, the whole point of the third quarterback was to prevent a Niners-Eagles situation with Josh Johnson with that.
Right.
But last year, not a lot of teams used that because the third quarterback was on the practice squad and he had to waste a roster spot. Now you don't have to waste a roster spot, which is good. I think a lot of teams are going to change their draft strategy now and undrafted free agents because a team like Jacksonville or Cincinnati, I think is a great example. Cincinnati beforehand, probably not the best destination to go to because you have Joe Burrow, you have Jake Browning. You're not going to make the roster, obviously. But now you were a quarterback, you go to Cincinnati, an undrafted rookie. That's a very enticing spot now because
or the Browns where they play where they freaking have 5 quarterbacks needed.
This is going to play an all quarterback roster.
Yeah.
all quarterbacks anyway.
Do you see the use of, I mean, we've seen punters have to be quarterbacks. We've seen kickers have to be quarterbacks in the past. This kind of eliminates that need, right?
This eliminates that need, yes. Something catastrophic would have to happen for that.
Like all your quarterbacks go down in one game.
3 of them go down.
Yeah.
If 3 of them go down. At that point, just Jesus take the wheel at that point. I don't even know. I'm a bit surprised that they're not putting in an emergency specialist rule. I would do that. If I was commissioner, I would lobby for an emergency specialist rule. Because
specialist as in punter, kicker, or
kicker.
Return kicker guys. Return guys, you can pretty much put anyone back.
Oh no, not return guys. No, not return guys. I'm talking kicker.
But you're talking kicker, punter.
Like the Panthers last year in the game against the Jaguars, they had no kicker.
Right.
Because he got hurt in pregame warmups. The Texans last year on Wale. I mean, that was a crazy story. That was a crazy kick.
Yeah.
That was incredible to watch. But for every Wale moment, you have a lot of moments where teams are completely screwed because their kicker gets injured during warmups.
Right. So possibly that may be the next step of emergency specialist.
Yeah. And I don't know
quarterback
I would do that.
Quarterback and kicker and punter kind of does. You can't really just put anybody in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, O-line, D-line, you can move those guys around. You can move receivers around. A receiver can play as a safety, whatever, if need be. But those 3 specialized positions are very specialized, and you can't really afford to not have them.
Right. It's those positions where there's 1 or 2 of them, and there's no one else that can do it.
And most teams aren't going to keep 2 kickers and 2 punters on their roster.
No,
unless it's on practice squad.
I can't remember the last time a team. I think the Colts were the last one to keep 2 kickers. because they had a kickoff specialist. I think they were, and that was like a decade ago. I think they were the last one to keep 2 on the active roster, like at all times.
Yeah. So those are the rule changes that the NFL has agreed on with all the owners. Now when you've covered this, the owners have to have a 2/3 majority to make rule changes, but
3/4.
the commission, the competition committee, individual teams, and the refs association, they can all make recommendations to the owners, correct?
Yep.
So we didn't see anything come out of the referees this year. We didn't see anything come out of the players union this year. Most of this stuff was competition committee. Does that surprise you?
Usually it's a good mix between competition committee and teams. I feel like next year it's going to be more teams than competition committee, because I think the big one for competition committee this year was we got to do something about kickoffs. We got to do something.
Kickoffs and hip drop tackles seem to be the two that they pushed hard.
Yeah, we need to make plays more exciting, and we need to reduce injuries.
Yeah,
I think next year we'll see more team-based stuff.
One that I'm glad didn't pass. The Eagles proposed that 10th of a second clock after in the last minute. Are you glad this one didn't pass as well?
It was one of the dumbest rule proposals I've seen. I'm so glad it didn't pass. It
and
just
there's always one dumb one, right? There's always one dumb.
Yeah, I'm like, why? Like, it doesn't make any difference. There's no difference between 4.2 and 4.1. It's not like basketball where like there's actually a difference in tenths of a second. It's going to make the clock more confusing because we'll have to review more stuff with the clock. And it's going to cost some money for a lot of these teams that don't have tenths of a second programmed in their scoreboard.
Yeah.
And a lot of these teams are getting new stadiums. So it's like, we're going to spend money to renovate the scoreboard for something that we're going to get rid of in 2 years. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Let's talk about the Hall of Fame game, only because I have a major interest in it now.
Yeah.
Bears and Texans, this didn't surprise you, did it?
Not at all. Hall of Fame is always based on who makes the Hall of Fame. And the Bears were sending 3 guys in.
The Texans were sending their first
real one. Yeah, I mean, Ed Reed technically, but
usually
they would send if you haven't played in a while, and the Texans haven't played in 20 years, I thought maybe there might have been some talk of let's do the Panthers because this is one of their first. They didn't play the Hall of Fame when Sam Mills got in. This is like their first lifer with Julius Peppers. Let's do them, do Bears Panthers. But my guess is that the Texans, they knew, okay, we're going to get a lot of people coming up from Houston for this. A lot of Texans fans because it's their first one.
And Texans fans travel well.
Yep. And they're not going to get a Hall of Famer for a while after this. Not counting J.J. Watt. But J.J. Watt, my guess is that year they're just doing Patriots-Bucks because he's going in with Tom Brady. Right. So they probably thought ahead and were like, you know what? Tom Brady's going in. We'll do Patriots-Bucks for that. Texans are probably not going to be here for a while besides J.J. Watt. Like, I can't think of anyone that's even like remotely close. Maybe Hopkins, but that's
that. I was going to say Hopkins could get it, but
5 years down the road, maybe.
I mean, I look at Hopkins and say, if he would have been able to play, compare Hopkins to Irving.
Mm-hmm.
If like Irving played with the same quarterback for pretty much his entire career.
Yeah.
Hopkins has played with what, 10 different quarterbacks?
Not a lot of them very good. Not a lot of them being very good.
And he's still put up the numbers that he's put up.
Yeah.
So if you were to give him, say, if he could have put up the numbers over his entire career that he put up that one season with Watson, he would be first ballot talk already, wouldn't he?
Yeah, probably. It's sort of just a giant log jam at wide receiver. So I don't know if Hopkins getting. I mean, Torrey Holt retired in 2009. It's one of the greatest of all time. He's still not in.
Still not in.
So Hopkins is going to have to wait a long time. So basically, that's like with the Texans. This is their only chance to play in the Hall of Fame for the next quarter century. And they haven't played.
Of course, they got to play when they were the expansion team.
Yeah.
Because the NFL likes doing that.
Yep, they always do that, which is nice. I like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
this makes a lot of sense. I speculated Bears Texans for a while, and this doesn't shock me at all.
And another game that has been announced, well, partially announced. We're not big fans of where it's being broadcast, but the very first game of the season, regular season, is going to be in Brazil. But why Peacock?
Money.
Money.
120 million reasons why. 120 million reasons why.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's I just hope that no streaming service gets exclusives for the Christmas games.
I don't think I would hope not. And I don't think they will, because I think the NFL realizes that on Christmas
You've got to be on a major network.
You have to be, because there's nothing else to show. And on top of that, a lot of people spend Christmas with their grandparents.
Right.
A lot of people spend at their grandparents' homes. They probably don't have smart TVs. So you just lost a giant chunk of audience. It's a bit different with games on like Prime on Thursday nights. It's not like you can go to the bar and watch, because the bars are closed on Christmas. So
right.
You're stuck.
So yeah, and obviously as the year, within the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see that kind of changing, because our parents, I'm in my 40s. My parents are now grandparents, and my grandparents are no longer around. So, my mom hosts Christmas. Mm-hmm. Well, every TV in their house is smart TV.
Yeah.
But obviously that's going to change, and that concept is going to change. But rural America is really where it's going to be. Hey, we can't get these games because we're stuck with satellite internet, or we're stuck with dial-up still.
Yeah, I think once we get like added infrastructure to get internet, like high-speed internet across the country, like if Google Fiber expands and whatnot, like that's really, like, people that have Google Fiber love it. Like if that expands, like that's a game changer. But there's still that technological divide that we're getting better, but we're not bridging that just yet. Like I know, like my parents, like my dad always asked me, like, how do I change the TV from HDMI to the other one, from HDMI 1 to HDMI 2, and he says so this is on HDM 14. How do I change it to HDM 13? I'm like, no, it's HDMI 4. You have to change it to HDMI 3. So,
he sees the I as a 1.
Yeah.
Nice. College basketball in Mexico City. The Big 12 is putting seems like a random set of basketball games in Mexico City this year in December. Your thoughts?
I don't get the point. I get the point for other sports. Like NFL, you put games in international countries. The goal is to increase awareness in those countries and maybe get expansion teams down the road and expand your footprint because you've maxed down the US. Like, I get it. You can't expand
college.
You can't expand college basketball. Like, it sounds like the Big 12 can say, okay, we're going to build these 4 new schools in Mexico to join our conference. It's not like you can do that.
Do you think this is more of a fan grab, maybe?
But I don't even know, like, what fans you have, like, in Mexico necessarily, because college basketball, it's very much regionalized in terms of, like, what schools you're a fan of and where your alumni base is.
And
I don't know.
And then the teams kind of seem random as well. Kansas and Houston, both men's and women's.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's like, okay, if you want to apply to a college, like you want to apply to college, like there's a whole set of process to go through if you're an international student. So I don't know, like, what the point of this is necessarily.
And I can see University of Houston getting a lot of internationals from Mexico because they're the Houston market. I mean, Houston market is huge, but Kansas?
Yeah.
Is it just because they're one of the best basketball teams in the nation?
It's gotta be. Because they're a blue blood.
Yeah. So yeah, that one kind of caught me off guard with how doing just random lookups and watching Big 12 and watching news on those teams that I'm interested in. This came across and I was like, that seems odd.
Yeah.
And
And
then
plus,
there's
also, a lot of teams in the summertime, they'll sometimes travel to Europe. They'll travel to the Caribbean. They'll travel to Latin America. And they'll do like practice there and they'll play games against actual teams. Now, they don't count for anything, but
right.
that makes sense in the summertime because it's a team bonding experience.
They'll do camps down there.
Yeah.
They'll do camps for local kids and stuff like that too.
And like it's a good experience for the students. Like because they get like a week, they get to be exposed to the culture. But that's not what this seems like. It seems like you're just going to go down to Mexico for the game and then come back. So you're not getting into the culture, especially because it's during finals week, probably. So
right,
you're not going to be spending any time down there. So this doesn't seem to make any sense from any standpoint.
Yeah, I just didn't. I didn't know if this was something that they had. I mean, obviously, by the fact that they've announced it so early and they've been saying they've been working on this for a while, Big 12 Mexico seems like it's something that's they're wanting to really push, especially now that they have schools in all but one state that borders Mexico.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be kind of the big draw of that.
Yeah.
Is that I think you're really going to see a lot of the Arizonas, the Arizona States, the Houstons, the Baylors. Those are the schools that they're really going to try to really feature to try to drive that fan base up in Mexico.
Yeah.
MLB started. How are your Diamondbacks doing?
Do you want to start 3-2 to start? I mean, this seems to be good this year. This seems to be good. I expect a 3-2 through 5. We're 3-2 through 5. Pitching staff is going to be great. We got Joe Montgomery from the Rangers.
How was the game last night?
Oh, it was terrible. That game was terrible. I mean, but I'm not surprised because our starting pitcher from that game, I said he's awful. He's basically the 9th best starting pitcher on this team. He's only there because everyone else is hurt. Like, he's not going to be in the rotation in 10 days.
He needs to be in Double-A. Is that what you're saying?
He's very, very bad. He can't throw strikes, and when he does throw strikes, the guy
hit out of the park
miles an hour. It's so bad. It was so bad.
Yeah.
But nothing surprised me last night. Look, it's a long season. D-backs are going to be good this year. I really like Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I'm glad we got him back.
I know the Marlins are saying it's a long season right now.
Yeah, Marlins put a fork in him. 0-5. Holy cow. 0-5 to the Pirates.
You have one of your viewers is a big Marlins fan, correct?
Yeah, we got a few. We got a few Marlins fans in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Monday night there was quite a few comments about just kill us now.
Yeah. Blew a 4-0 lead. And it's like, oh my goodness. The bullpen can't pitch to save its life.
Speaking of Monday nights, now this coming week you're doing something a little different, but because of the championship game. Mm-hmm. But on Monday nights during the off season, you do GeoGuessr.
Yes.
And I've challenged you with a few maps. GeoGuessr is a lot of fun, not only to make maps but to play, obviously. And you really enjoy this game. You really enjoy the camaraderie of these, and it's a good way to just not be sitting there answering questions during the Q&A. What's your favorite map on GeoGuessr right now?
Favorite map? Oh, I like doing the Disney maps where you can't move, pan, or zoom because I know Disney well like the back of my hand. I love doing that. The funniest map I've ever played by far. Not funniest map, but like it's scary how good it is. There's another buddy of mine that's like huge into Disney, and we do this map called Disney World Floors. And what it is, you can't move, you can't pan, you can't.
You're looking at the floor.
You're looking at the floor, and you have to guess where you are in Disney World. And like we get scary high scores.
Oh my gosh.
It's actually insane. Like whoever came up with that map, like bravo.
So just so you know, I made a few edits to my maps. You ain't in the same places no more. in some of them.
Thank God, no more Texarkana.
Uh, mainly the world locations map.
Yeah.
Um, I added a bunch of cities. I think we're up to 37 now in there.
Oh, all right.
37, 38, something like that. And it's not just your international cities. It's actually there's like Pittsburgh, Texas in there. There's
Oh,
Jacksonville, Texas, Detroit, Texas. So yeah,
Minnesota, Ohio.
uh, uh, and then I'm just gonna say it straight up. There's one that is a very blatant red herring.
Oh, I love the red herring maps. I love I do some maps where like you can't move pan, like you can't move. You can pan, but you can't move and you can't zoom. And like you
Yeah,
see like the flag of like Russia, and you're like, oh, this is Russia. So you click Russia, and then it's like, oh, this was somewhere in Argentina. Like what? I love
there.
it.
So apparently, there's an Eiffel Tower map.
Or
It's
just all
like,
the Eiffel Towers in the world.
yeah, and the one in China is kind of obvious,
Yeah,
but the one in Paris isn't even in there. It's like, yeah, that's fun.
that's amazing.
Um, so as I said at the top of the show, we talk sports and then we talk music. This month we're talking about something that happened back in December, but just came on my radar. It's been done before, but never quite like what these guys are doing. The band Kiss is going holographic. Your thoughts?
Very weird since they're alive. Very weird. I see. So my thing with holographic concerts, my thing with that, I get it. I probably wouldn't do it, but I get it. Like I know ABBA's doing it. I know Winnie Houston's done it. I know a lot of these other artists have done it. But with those concerts, from everything I saw, it's the holographic vocalist, but then the band is live and the
Right.
background singers are live. So you're basically getting a live band. You're seeing a live band, which is always awesome. But
You're
it's
just seeing a lip sync.
yeah, you're just seeing Whitney Houston as a hologram,
Right.
like or hologram just lip syncing to her songs. Obviously, the appeal will probably wear off after a bit because there's no like camaraderie with the audience, like you can't like interact with them. But
Right.
I at least get it, like because you see like it's no different really than seeing like a live band of like cover artists. It's no different than any of that. But this is just all like from everything I could tell, everyone's a hologram in this. So the entire thing is just a hologram. So the guitar's a hologram, the drum's a hologram, the singer's a hologram, like everything's a hologram. So what's the point? Why not just listen to their album or listen to
Or just throw a live show from 30 years ago up on a
yeah,
screen and let people pay to watch it.
yeah, like that. Like again, I've seen live bands before where like this like obviously the singer might be lip syncing or anything or something like that, but it's a live band at least. This
Right.
I don't get the appeal. I don't get the
There's
appeal.
always reasons that lip syncing happens. Artist isn't feeling good, whatever. But to do a full holographic show that it's like, okay, every member of that band is a vocalist, every member of that band is part of that experience. It's it's um it's kind of funny to look at that and say, well, yeah, these guys have been doing it for over 50 years. They're tired. They're wanting to do something different. But then why set something 4 years at that time, 4 years out, now 3 years
Yeah.
out?
Maybe the technology, I don't know, but it's weird because the technology doesn't seem to be improving. Like I've
Right.
seen the like I remember when Michael Jackson at the Billboard Music Awards in 2014, there was a hologram of him doing Slave to the Rhythm. And that looked great. And I thought, okay, the advancements in this are gonna be insane in the next decade. Like this is gonna be incredible in the next
But
decade.
then you see what ABBA's doing,
Yeah.
and
It's
it's
like
like,
we're not
wait, we're
going
back in
anywhere.
the 90s.
Yeah, it's like we're not going anywhere. We're going backwards, if anything.
Right.
This doesn't make any sense. Like you would think we get like these technological advancements, and we're really not getting them.
I love this first line by this Gizmodo article. Grandpa rockers kiss, finally hang up makeup brushes at their last show. Um, not the exact thing I would use, but okay, great hook line.
Yeah, I don't like it so like Kiss to be like Grandpa Rock. I just feel like Grandpa Rock to be like yacht rock almost. Like like late 70s, like you think not like you think like the soft rock. You don't think
Right.
Kiss, which appeal to teenagers.
Well, some of those teenagers are now grandpas.
Yeah, which is
That's
crazy.
the funny thing. I mean,
Somehow, like Kiss said, like when I Was Made for Love You came out, they were like horrified because they realized like, oh crap, our audience is now like 10-year-olds.
yeah. 50 years seems like a good run that they had. They're still a big draw. I mean, apparently they had sold out MSG. That's, I mean, only a few people can say they've done that. Billy Joel's done it over almost 150 times now, but that's a little different. Speaking of Billy Joel, what did you think of CBS announcing that they were playing his 100th show, not his 150th show?
Yeah, I mean, it's what the 100th show of the residency, right? It's the 100th show. It's not like the 100th show he played all 150th show. So he's
It
played
was
100 years for
so
this residency.
CBS they filmed his 100th show of the residency
Yeah,
and played it. I guess it was this weekend they played it. But he's fixing to do his 150th, which will be the final show at MSG.
yeah, yeah.
And obviously 100, that's 50 months ago. Wait, we don't have the big new hit.
Yeah, we did not have that
So
yet. But
yeah, I don't think CBS foresaw that happening.
I don't know though, because they had the because they are the Grammys, so they might have had some awareness of that. So I don't know, but
Yeah.
I mean the reception of that hit's been phenomenal, which is awesome.
Right.
It's a good song.
Yeah.
But I mean, more Billy Joel is good to me. More Billy Joel is always good to me. And I don't know how if he's gonna stop playing there. I think he's just gonna stop doing the once a month shows, but he'll still do stuff.
Yeah, he'll still do MSG. I mean, that's like backyard for him, right?
Yeah, he'll still do MSG, just not once a month. He'll still do those stadium shows. He's doing he's doing a tour with not a tour, but almost how he did like with Stevie Nicks. He's doing with Sting.
Yeah.
This year, which I'm looking forward to. It's not coming to Phoenix, but it's coming to Vegas. I might try and
You're gonna try to go?
I might. It's tempting.
Now you saw him with Stevie Nicks, right?
Yes.
And when you saw him with Stevie Nicks, he hadn't done the new song, obviously.
Nope.
Are you ready to hear that live?
I am. Yeah. I mean, I've seen people like he hasn't done it he's done it live at every show since it came out,
Right.
Which it just feels so
Watching
weird.
him, I watched his entire show from the Tokyo Dome, which was one of the first concerts he had done it at, and it's like, that's cool.
Yeah, it's always one of my favorite moments with concerts is when you see an artist one time before, and then you see him a second time, and they're like a legacy act, and they have a new hit that they play, and it's like a massive song and everyone knows it. It's this weird feeling. Like Ellen John, the first time I saw him, he didn't have Cold Heart with Dua Lipa. And then I saw him again and he had Cold Heart. And it's like, oh wow, I like this is weird. Like I also saw Train, and Train was like a legacy act at this point. And then that song came out. And then that became one of their biggest hits. I was like, oh, this is bizarre.
Yeah, it's like if you saw Aerosmith in the 70s and then saw them in the 80s when they had that resurgence, it's like, wait, where'd this stuff come from?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like I'd imagine if you were a Cher fan, if you loved Cher in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s, and you saw her in concert, and it's like, okay, this is we saw her at her peak. She's a legacy act at this point, but I love seeing her. And then she comes out with Believe in '99.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow,
where'd this come from?
Yeah. I love that when that happens to artists. I love that when you think they're a legacy act and you see them live before, and then they come out with a new song and it's like a hit.
And mentioning Cher, she really had 3 careers, didn't she?
Right. Yeah.
She had her run with Sonny. Then she had that solo career in the early 80s that was phenomenal. I mean, I have most of those albums. And then she comes out with Believe, and it's like, wait, thought she was washed up.
Yeah. It's almost like same thing with Santana. It's like if you saw Santana back in like the late '80s, early '90s, you're like, okay, like great guitar player, but he's not getting any more hits. So I'm just
And then
going
he
for him
comes,
as like
and
a
then they
legacy
do
act.
that
And then
collab
Smooth
album.
and Maria Maria and all those other songs, like, oh my goodness. Like,
Yeah, Smooth is really what put Santana on the map for me.
yeah,
I had never heard his original stuff, so
yeah,
but Smooth was a great song.
yeah,
I'm glad that these legacy artists realize, hey, new music isn't a bad thing.
yeah. I think it's tough because like obviously you want to put out new music, but it's weird when you're in that like when you're in that zone. That's gotta be the weirdest thing for an artist to be in, where you're in that zone where it's okay. I have to tour. I love putting out new music, but I can't play this stuff unless it's a hit because no one came here to see it. Like if
Right.
Elton John went on tour, and obviously like Cold Heart obviously was a massive hit. But if Elton John went on tour, like his final tour, and he played the stuff from like his most recent album, that's the bathroom break time. No one came
No
for
one's
that.
there to see that.
Yeah. So it's like this weird thing where like, okay, I have to promote this. I love this new music, but at the same time, I can't promote it in concert because it's the worst part of the concert.
Because you have one shot, basically.
Yeah. It's like I want people to go to this concert to hear my songs, and like people were saying, like people were like, oh, I want to go to hear this new song that he has out.
Yeah.
And
And you
a lot
don't
of
open up with brand new song. You play 5 or 6 hits, then say, hey, I got a new song, play that, and then go back to the hits.
Yeah. Everyone leaves during when we. The worst thing you can hear at a concert is a song is an artist saying this is off our brand new album. That's the worst thing you can hear at a concert.
That's when everyone's headed for the concessions.
Yep, that's when you know. Unless it's like unless it's an artist that's like popular, like that, like the new album did numbers. Like the last thing you want to hear if you're going to a concert from someone in, like I heard like when I was at like Huey Lewis and the News, like they did a like it was like this is off our newest album. It's like oh, like
Okay, we'll be listening from
down
the
for this one. You can
concourse.
sit down.
Hopefully, we can hear it from the concourse while we're standing in line for those
Yeah.
concessions. Which is kind of funny because for me, I never went to concerts and left my seat.
Mhm.
Like it was like I'm at a concert. I'm there to watch the concert. I don't care. I'm there because I like the artist. I don't care if they play a new song or not.
Right.
But I do remember when we went to Nashville, I got to see Alabama live, and they were doing newer stuff. Of course, this was in the late 90s. So they were still a big thing. Maybe not as big as they were in the 80s, but they were still a big deal. And Cheap Seats had just come out, which was their kind of ode to baseball.
Mhm.
And the coolest thing about that was they invited all the kids up on stage.
Wow.
And my mom actually has pictures of me. I started out standing by Randy Owens, the lead singer.
Mhm.
And by the time the song started, I was more over by Jeff Cook. And she's like, why did you move? And I was like, because I love singing along with their songs. And where I was, I knew that I couldn't be heard.
Mhm.
Because Jeff's mics were that song. Jeff doesn't sing a lot, and I knew Jeff's mics were off.
That's clever.
So I moved up, and plus I admired Jeff for his ability to play. So it was a cool experience. And then they gave us all double. They were baseballs from a AA team that all of them had signed. So it's a cool memento that I have, that it was really cool. But you know, they played 3 new songs that night. I didn't care. I knew the songs because I had the album.
Yeah.
And that's the diehard fan. The casual fans are the ones like you're talking about. It's like, oh, new song. I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
So you got to appease both, and it's a very fine balancing act for artists.
Yeah, for like the legacy artists, it's like if you're going to like I'm guessing like for people that go to like a Bon Jovi concert or U2 concert, you want to see
You
U2.
two at the you
Yeah,
two at the Sphere, that residency, they said everyone just wants to hear them sing hits.
yeah, and like Green Day's doing a tour in this fall and summer where they're playing the entirety of Dookie and American Idiot, and I'm assuming they're going to play their hits also. I'm assuming 99.9% of people don't want to hear their newest album that go to
Yeah.
this. They were going there because we can hear American Idiot live.
They want to hear American Idiot.
Yeah, they want to hear those two classic albums live. They don't want to hear any of the new stuff.
Yeah. And that's where, stuff like what Kiss is going to be doing. Obviously, they're not going to be releasing any new music, but it's like say the tour comes through and you see it the first time, that means the next time they come through, they've got to change it slightly so that you're not seeing the exact same thing, because you're not going to put your money down on a ticket, especially when tickets are as expensive as they are. You're not going to sit there to watch the exact same show a second time.
Right. I mean, there are some artists that do the exact same thing, but they like, it's a different vibe each night. It's a different vibe. Right. It'd be the exact same thing. It's almost like the big appeal for the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. It's not just the fact that she's playing all her albums.
She's the biggest selling artist in the world right now.
It's not like, obviously, like the tour was going to do numbers and sell out regardless, but the appeal also with that tour and why it's still hugely popular even a year later, as it goes to like added shows and added legs while the ticket prices are still going up, is because she will switch it up and do surprise songs. Like they switch it up. Like the only way you could do it is if you had like with the Kiss show, if you did it where you have a select group of songs that are always in there. So you end with Rock and Roll All Night every time. Every time you end with Rock and Roll All Night. Every time you play Forever. Every time you play Beth. Every time you play Shout It Out Loud. Or you open with Shout Out Loud every time you play I Was Made for Love. So like there's a select like like the A list of songs that are always played. And then the rest are computer generalized, where they do holograms for every song in their catalog, or every like a select like 50 songs. You play 20 of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like obviously Billy Joel's not getting off stage without doing It's Still Rock and Roll to Me and Big Shot and Vienna.
Right.
But the rest of the show, you don't know what he might do. He may do Keep the Faith. He may not.
Right. With Billy Joel, like it's different. Like with the Garden, he likes switching it up. With the shows across the country, not as much, but there are some changes. But that for Billy Joel, that his final song is in the main set will be Mike Del Giudice doing Nessun Dorma, then Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, then Piano Man. Then he'll go off stage and he'll play then We Didn't Start the Fire, Uptown Girl, You May Be Right, and Still Rock and Roll with Me. That's how he's gonna end every show. Which is fine, because that's a great way to end the show. But for the first 15 songs, you have no idea what he's playing. He could start with, like I've seen him before. He starts sometimes in Miami 2017. He'll sometimes start with Prelude Angry Young Man. He started off the show I went to last time with My Life. He could start with a lot of different things.
The interview that SiriusXM did with his band without Billy around. Mm-hmm. They said one of the band members said very first show he ever did with Billy, for some strange reason, he started with Piano Man.
Wow. That's like back in the day. This had to be like years ago.
This is like 10, 12 years
like second or third. Like he used to do it. That was back in the 80s.
And it's like, and the band member said to one of the other guys, he's like, is it like this every night? He's like, no, it'll never be like this again.
Like it's like looking at like old set lists, like Bon Jovi. They sometimes, like back in the 2000s, they started their shows off with Living on a Prayer. And
it's like, why do you start with your biggest hit? You finish with your biggest hit.
Yeah, it's almost like I saw Bryan Adams live, and he was great live. He was incredible. But like the sixth song he played was Everything I Do It For You. That was the sixth song he played. And then like 5 songs later, he did he did Heaven. Or it might have been the other way around. And then he did 90 minutes into the show, summer of 69, or 80 minutes into the show, summer of 69. And then you saw this mass exodus of people leaving. He still had 30 minutes left in the show. He didn't do an encore.
They've heard everything they wanted to hear.
Yeah, it was like, why didn't you end with summer 69? And like, he still had hits. Like, he still like played Cuts Like a Knife afterwards, All for Love. Like, he played all that. But like, you would think that summer 69 would be the end.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's like the middle. Like, people like, obviously, like, people know Bryan Adams for like a bunch of different songs, but the three main songs that most people know nowadays are those three. You played them all, and you still have a third of the show left. And it wasn't like it's like an encore or anything. It was like, oh, okay.
It's kind of like Garth Brooks in the 90s. He always ended the show with Billy Joel's You May Be Right.
Yeah.
And if he hadn't played that, no one left.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's been times where his guitarist will start playing it's the song that it talks about putting basically no hanky panky till you marry me.
Oh, that's from Georgia Satellites. Oh,
yeah, Georgia Satellites.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
So his lead guitarist really loves that song, and he'll go on stage during what Garth called a reset break. Like, they would reset some stuff, mainly pyro, but he would go out there and play that. Well, it was captured when they did Reunion Arena for the original CBS special. This is Garth Brooks, and it's on YouTube, but it's one of the rare things you can find of Garth on YouTube.
Not a lot.
But he's like, at the end of it, he's like, good night, and like no one leaves because they know that he's coming out for You May Be Right.
Yep.
And it was just so different to see that. But people know how artists end shows, especially when those artists televise their shows. And it's like all three, like Garth televised 3 shows. All 3 shows ended the same way. Then he goes to Ireland, does the Ireland shows, ends it the same way. So now it's like, you ain't leaving a Garth Brooks concert unless he's played that song.
Yeah. I forgot that he went to Ireland because that got canceled. He tried to do that before and it got canceled. Because I remember like there was a great documentary I watched.
What happened was he sold out this one stadium over there, and it was Ireland has neighborhood stadiums. So like the stadium surrounded by old neighborhood.
Yeah, that's
a soccer stadium. Yeah. So he sells it out. So they're like, well, let's do another night. He sells it out for 3 nights in a row. And then the town council was like, no more. And so he decided, well, what if we don't sell tickets? And they're like, no. So that was the whole controversy with that. And that's why they canceled shows. He's like, well, then we'll sell the first night. Everyone else that bought tickets for the second and third night, we're going to give those away. They let anybody in to those nights because he didn't need the money, basically, is what he said. I mean, you think about it, Garth's set for life. He doesn't have to tour, but he tours because he wants to.
Yeah. Wow, he looks like he's having a great time on stage every time.
Huh?
He looks like he's having a great time on stage every time.
Yeah. Some people said he was jacked up on coke half the time, but he's denied that. Just his energy, and someone he contributes or says inspired him to do the shows he did was Chris Ledoux. And for those that don't know who Chris Ledoux is, he was a country singer, but he is also a bareback rider for the rodeo, national champion at that. And Garth opened for Chris one night and goes out, does his standard set, had a great, what he thought was a great show, sitting in his dressing room and starts hearing feedback through and like, why, what's going on with audio? So he goes out to the side of the stage, and here comes Chris Ledoux up on an elevator riding a mechanical bull, doing 8-second ride, and it's like, oh, that's the energy I need. So that's what catastrophically changed his approach to the live show. The live show wasn't just there to be a representative of the album, it was there to entertain the fans. And that's why he was considered, that's why he's the one entertainer of the year so much. That's why he won entertainer of the year at the AMAs and said, no, I don't deserve this, because he was humble about it and thought other artists deserved it. But I agree that the concert is there as a form of entertainment. It's why we watch football. That's why we watch basketball. That's why we watch baseball. It's entertainment to us. If you're just going to do the same thing over and over again, there's no reason to do it, because no one's going to pay to see it multiple times.
Right. And plus, I would assume it gets boring for the artists too to just do the same thing over and over again. I would assume like you want to switch it up. Like I don't know how some of these artists, like Elton John, like I love the guy, but he did his tour, that like 5-year, 6-year tour, and every single show was the exact same in terms of the exact order of the songs. And I've been switching up the order. But like I saw him multiple times because like I love the guy and it was his last tour and he's incredible. But
it was the same. Get boring. It was the same thing, but that every time you saw him, it was the same show.
Yeah, I just feel like very, very boring.
Yeah, like George Strait. You know, George Strait used to get criticized because they're like, you just stand up there and sing. He's like, that's all I have to do.
Yeah.
Whereas people like Mariah Carey and Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift, they have to do they have all this choreographed dance because they know that that's what people want from them. And it's like if you're just doing a computer generated image of an artist, like Kiss is going to do, like ABBA's doing, like others have done, how are you entertaining the crowd other than just standing up there and singing when they're expecting you to be entertaining them, not just singing your songs?
Right. And like there's no feedback, and like a lot of artists, like they get energy off the crowd.
Right.
Like, that's what makes it like
I mean, how many times have you seen an artist call an audible on what song they're going to do because the energy of the crowd says, no, we're not doing that song next?
Oh yeah.
Billy Joel, I can think I've heard has done it
he'll put songs up to votes. He'll literally put songs up to votes where like he says, okay, I have this song, and we'll vote.
We'll vote. Yeah. Yeah. The female in his band that does percussion.
Yeah.
She says it drives her nuts too.
Yeah.
Because she's like, but she knows it's like, okay, we're going to vote on these songs going into it.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of knows what to expect.
Yeah. And like they'll read signs and we'll do songs based on like the signs people hold up. Like Bruce Springsteen's done that many times where he just reads, like he sees signs in the crowd, does songs based on that. Like he'll do like Santa Claus is coming to town in June. Like he sees a sign that says it. Bryan Adams did that too, where he like just read signs in the crowd and like took suggestions.
Yeah. Well, as always, an hour and a half flies by when we're talking music and sports. I want to thank you for being here, as we are every month. First Tuesday of the month, I think, is what we've kind of settled on.
Yeah, it's a good time.
The draft's coming, so May is going to be a fun time to talk how the draft went. You've got a pretty hectic schedule for draft weekend because you're going to be calling a UFL game at the end of that, right?
No. So what I'm going to do, I'm flying to Detroit for the draft.
Right.
So I'll be at the draft. I'm flying in Wednesday. Thursday, I'll be at the draft. Friday, I'm going to be at the draft. Saturday, I'm going to be at the draft. I'm taking an early flight, first flight out on Sunday morning. so I can get back in time to Phoenix to call the UFL. Yeah,
That
so
is going to
I'm
be
not doing the games on Saturday because I'll be in Detroit, but
right.
I'll be watching. I'll be watching on my phone. I'll probably be getting dinner somewhere.
Yeah. And of course, you got content coming out constantly on JG.News. You try to get a video out every day on your main channel. And MLB and NCAA content coming soon.
Coming soon. Yeah, just trying to figure out the right schedule to do it, but it's been killing me. It's been killing me that I can't put it out as often.
And you know I'm going to ask about this. How's that Baylor A&M documentary?
Yeah, that one's coming along. The ones that like are in the queue from like the membership requests, those are coming along. But it's more of,
and most of those are more documentary
schedule going, but it's just stuff.
Most of those are more documentary style, right?
Yeah.
That's
the hard part. It's
and you try to release your documentaries on Saturdays, right?
I try to do the docs on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah. Well, it's always good talking to you. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night is of course trivia. You've had a kind of consistent run of winners on that, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are winning pretty constantly, which is nice. It's nice. You see some regulars. You see some regulars over there. There's like a rotation of like 5 or 6 that's usually pretty good in taking my money. It's good. It's good.
Well, at least it's usually Patreon money that gets sent to them, right?
Yeah. I'm the one front of the 45 to those people for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's like
YouTube's paying good.
But yeah.
I want to thank everyone that commented. NKC and 467 Troy both made comments today. Thank you. This will be out in podcast form soon. We do it live and let you guys comment, and then I release it as a podcast. This is episode 4 of this journey. And we're going to continue doing them. Hopefully we can find a third co-host to replace PJ. But until then, it'll just be Colin and I running things the best we can. Colin, any last words?
No, fun time as always, and hopefully we got a lot to talk about with the draft.
The draft is coming, and I can't wait to see all the videos that you're going to be putting out on that, because I know there's going to be some, what the heck were they thinking?
Yep, a lot of JG9 new stuff coming. It's going to be tough. Like, I don't know if I'm going to put out videos during the draft, because like I don't know what the Wi-Fi is going to be like in Detroit, and like obviously we'll have the studio set up, but we'll make it work. It's going to be a hectic time here.
Yeah, well, I do know that I've seen guys that are doing other content, not sports related, but they go to Germany and the UK sometimes for events, and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to put mod videos out. And then they put 5 mod videos out. It's like, okay, the Wi-Fi must have been okay to do something.
It's gonna be weird, like instead of having the cases behind me, it's like, okay, welcome to JG9 News. I'm doing this in the bathroom of my hotel.
Because the acoustics are great.
Yeah, I'm gonna like ignore the fact that I'm sitting on my toilet, but we're gonna talk about the Jaguars drafting a receiver.
Right.
It's so weird, but we'll make it work.
Before we go, what's your number one desire for the Jags to get in this draft?
Wide receiver 1. Ideally, what I want to have happen, I will lose my mind if it does. What I want is for the Jags to be on the clock at pick 17, and I want to hear Dan Gardy on the PA system saying the Jacksonville Jaguars have traded the pick. San Francisco is on the clock, because that means we got Brandon Ayuk. If that happens, I will cry tears of joy. But I'm not expecting it. But I think we will get a receiver. I think we will draft a receiver.
You think in 1 or 2 that they'll draft?
1.
Just 1?
What round?
No, I'm saying total. How many wide receivers do you think?
I would wager. I would think 1. Yeah, I would think still just 1. Maybe in day 3, but I don't think we're going to get any more in day 2. I don't think we're going to stockpile on receiver.
Most of the quality receivers are going to go day 1 and day 2, right?
Yeah, and it's more of just I don't know where the other guy would fit. Like obviously we need a wide receiver one, but if we draft another guy, I don't know where he would fit necessarily because it seems like we're pretty set at wide receiver in terms of the other guys. Like Gabe Davis, we got Christian Kirk as the other starter. Zay Jones probably gets cut, but Parker Washington, we really like him. We got Devin Duvernay as kick returner, so you get a receiver
Yeah.
that's 5. So I don't know if a 6th receiver would make the roster.
I mean, usually 6 receivers are usually those specialty slot receivers, right?
Yeah, they're usually like special teams guys. So maybe as like a 6th round or a 7th round pick, but
Yeah.
we'll go receiver early, but I don't think we're going to.
And what do you see the Texans doing?
Ooh, that's tough.
It's kind of the Texans are kind of in that run it back year, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely they're going to get a running back at some point. I don't think they're going in with Pierce as the starter because he was disappointing. But I don't know if you do day 1, probably day 2. They'll do a running back day 2. I don't know what they're going to do. Probably secondary day 1 because I mean they signed C.J. Henderson, which shows how desperate they are because he can't play.
Right.
I see that first thing.
Well, like always, great discussion. Thank you for being here. And thank everyone that watched live. Thank you for watching the replay or these segments. See you next month after the draft. Bye.